Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most influential books ever written. But we're not just talking about the book itself. We're looking at a framework for reading it that promises to change everything, turning an ancient text into a divine encounter.
So, let's just get right to the heart of the problem, shall we? The Bible. It's not really one book. It's more like a library, a huge collection of writings put together over 1,500 years. So, how in the world do you even begin to make sense of it all? I mean, just look at the scale of this thing. You've got 66 separate books written by about 40 different people in different languages, from ancient cultures that are just worlds away from ours. Trying to find one single coherent message in all of that can feel, a little impossible.
But what if we're all coming at it with the wrong goal? The framework we're exploring today suggests a massive shift in perspective. It asks us to stop thinking about it as just an old document we need to analyze and to approach it with a totally different purpose. And this quote, this gets right to the heart of it. The Bible is God's speech in written form. So we should think about what it means for God to speak. See, the core idea here is to stop seeing the Bible as the static historical artifact and instead see it as the active, living speech of God. All of a sudden, the question isn't just, what does this text say? It's, what is God saying through this text right now? And once you make that shift, reading isn't just about gathering information anymore. It becomes this relational act. This approach calls it a means of grace, basically a pathway where you can actually encounter the divine author. The whole goal changes to communion with God himself. Okay, so that all sounds pretty profound, right? But how does it actually work when you sit down to read? Well, this is where the framework gets super practical. It gives us a tool, 3 interconnected lenses to help us see the divine author in any passage, and they're all based on this idea of lordship. First up, we have the lens of authority. This is all about seeing the text as God's authoritative word. So you ask yourself, what is this passage showing me about his standards, about his character? What truth is he laying down for how I should live and what I should believe? It's about recognizing that these words carry divine weight. Next, you put on the lens of control. With this one, you're looking for God's hand guiding the events of the story. You ask, how does this moment, whether it's a huge battle or a quiet conversation, fit into God's bigger plan for history? You start to see how every little piece of the narrative is under his control. And finally, the third lens is presence. This is really the relational heart of the whole thing. Here, you're looking for where God is personally present with his people in the story. Where is he in this scene? How is he interacting with them, helping them, revealing himself right in the middle of whatever they're going through? Now, here's the really crucial part. These 3 lenses are not a checklist. You don't just do one, then the next, then the next. They're totally interlocked. Each one points to the other 2. God's authority is shown through his control of history, and he makes his presence known right inside that plan. Think of them like 3 different camera angles on the same incredible, divine reality. All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. We're going to use an example from the Old Testament. The story of David when he's on the run from King Saul, hiding out in a place called the Cave of Adullam. So, let's run this story through our 3 lenses. First, look through the authority lens. David's not just some fugitive hiding in a cave, right? He's acting like God's chosen commander, bringing order to this ragtag group of guys. Now, switch to the control lens. This isn't just a random, terrible moment in David's life. It's actually part of God's master plan to protect the future king of Israel. And finally, through the presence lens, we see David isn't alone in that cave. He's experiencing God's protection, a sign of God's presence with his people, especially when they're suffering. See how each lens shows us a deeper layer of what's happening in the exact same story? And when you start reading like this consistently, something pretty amazing happens. The Bible begins to change from what can often feel like a jumbled collection of random stories, weird laws, and ancient poems, and it starts to become one single, unified story. This God-centered way of reading is designed to show you one big, cohesive, redemptive narrative that's pointing to a central figure from the very first page to the very last. So what this framework really does is set up a huge contrast in why we even read in the first place. On one side, you have the typical text-centered approach, where the goal is to master the text, collect all the historical facts and literary details. But with this God-centered approach, the goal totally shifts. It's not about mastery of the text, it's about a relationship with the author. The outcome you're looking for isn't just more information, it's personal transformation. And this is huge because it means that tricky passages aren't just problems to be solved, they're invitations to understand a deeper part of this unfolding divine story. And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. The remedy is not the human author, it is communion with God. The big idea is that the ultimate answer to our questions and confusion isn't found by digging deeper into the human writer's minds, but by seeking a connection with the divine author who's speaking through them. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. How would our entire experience of reading this ancient library change if we believed the goal was never to master a text, but to meet its author? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.